Que Pasa, bienvenido, welcome back again to Que Pasa on RadioLatinoTV.com. Today is Monday, and we have the news and views with Daniel Jehl, and today we also have Tim Zink, and Tim has been right here with us, and also Raul, our engineer. On Mondays, as you all know, and welcome to everyone throughout the world. I hope everyone had a good, safe weekend. There was a lot of mutual activity over the weekend throughout the world, and literally throughout the world. But we only have 30 minutes, so we can't talk about it all on news and views. We have to choose our topics and go from there. And we can only do that, well, we can do that, but we can't really do it forever without sponsors. And John Rogers is our sponsor today, and we really thank John Rogers in Fort Wood, Indiana. And if you need an attorney, if you need any legal advice for your consultations, John Rogers is the attorney at law to go to, and I really hope that you take advantage of that if you need any type of legal assistance. And he is in Fort Wayne at two phone numbers. In English, it would be area code 260, number 426-0674. In Espanol, 260-704-0682. Consulta gratis. That's John Rogers. He's the person to go to. So we really want to thank John Rogers for the sponsorship. Okay, Tim, how was your weekend?
It was good. Oh, well, it was alright. You know, good for working.
Well, good for working is right. Yeah. Plus, there was so much going on this weekend, Tim.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
I mean, I worked too over the weekend.
Oh, yeah?
Well, yeah. Well, here, let me just get right into it.
Okay.
Okay. We had the Consulado Mobile de Mexico at St. Patrick's. Yes, Tim, I was there on Saturday, on Sabado. And wow, what a success. They really help people. Instead of having to drive to Chicago to the consulate in Chicago, people can drive to Fort Wayne and do this. But for all you listeners, I want you to know, they had over 800 people there, but guess what? I asked them, they're coming back in August. So if you missed it, they're coming back in August to St. Patrick's. By the way, that was sponsored by El Mexicano News, and I just want to thank St. Patrick's and El Mexicano News for the tremendous job they did. But they're coming back in August, Augusto, so if you missed it, they're coming back.
I stopped by that Windsong Festival.
Yeah.
On Saturday morning. I went to the How to Make a Film.
Yeah.
Did you go all during the weekend?
No, Fernando, I know. No, how did that, no, tell me.
Yeah, that went pretty well. I mean, I went down there and I looked at the How to Make a Film Festival. Michael Floyd, who we interviewed on Friday, was there. He was presenting, and it was pretty nice. I mean, it was a little long. I had to get going, but I stayed there for a couple hours and watched all sample of all their different works that they've done over the past. Oh man, it was started in 1975. So all the different works that they've done a lot of good work in the community.
Yeah, it's amazing. I know that Fernando Zapari also went to the Walking With Us. They showed it 3 times over the weekend, which is the new film premiere in Fort Wayne, Indiana over the weekend, involving more than 50 Hispanics in the community and more, and tremendous subjects. And Michael Floyd will be a subject of a upcoming show here on News and Views. It was worthwhile. Hey Tim, did it cost you too much to go?
No, it didn't cost me anything.
That's what I thought. It was free.
Yeah.
It was free.
Just a smile, I guess.
That's right. Michael Floyd said just a smile. And tremendous. That was just one thing. Well, Tim, I'm going to go over a few other things for the weekend. We always recap the weekend on Mondays on News and Views. Well, how about this one? I think I'm going to start with, to me, the most serious one. The Walk Across America for the Dream Act started on Saturday, same day you're talking about, At 1 o'clock, they left the San Francisco Golden Gate Bridge to head to Washington, D.C. on truly a historic walk for the DREAM Act, for the 2.1 million Dreamers, and for a cause of humane immigration reform. I can't give them enough credit. So on Sunday, the next day, Tim, I called Lucas De Silva, one of the walkers, to see how it's going. And he said, we're in California somewhere, but he wasn't sure exactly where. But they're walking. They started it. They're heading here. I mean, they're heading to Washington, D.C., but they're on their way. And we'll talk more about this later, because on Wednesday, from 11:30 Eastern Standard Time until 12:30, the entire show, including the Fernando Zapari show at noon, will all be devoted to immigration, including, we will find out where Lucas and the walkers are that day. How cool is that?
Yeah, it would be cool. You need to put like a map on our website or something.
Well, that's something that we should do, and we probably will when they get closer. Right now, they're weaving their way through California and heading east, heading our direction. Okay, moving on. Okay, guess what, Tim?
What's up?
Occupy Fort Wayne. This all started in October. It started with Occupy Wall Street. It all has to do with the civil people saying that 1% of the nation holds all the wealth, and the other 99% are coming out on the short end of every stick. And it started with Occupy Wall Street, and it expanded not only throughout the United States, Estados Unidos, but worldwide. The Occupy movement is kind of the exact opposite of the Tea Party movement. You know, they're not official parties. Are they not? They're not official parties.
I mean, I wouldn't say they're exactly opposite. I mean, they're both dissatisfied with the status quo.
Well, that's true. Guess what? We're agreeing on that one. Tim and I sometimes agree and sometimes don't. And that's the way it is with freedom of expression. Yeah, but they are really... well, guess what happened, Tim, over the weekend? Occupy Fort Wayne has been down. They started at Headwaters Park. Many people, some of our listeners in Northeast Indiana, know Headwaters Park. That was the location for many of the Jorge Gonzalez fundraisers to raise funds for his kidney. Very successful, by the way, kidney transplant. And Jorge is doing well today. And then they moved to Freeman Square. And guess what, Tim? They got an eviction notice. They all got booted out. Did you see that?
Yeah, I did see that.
Wouldn't you think they would have given them some notice when you're being evicted?
Yeah, you would think.
Well, they evicted them. So, anyway, on Sunday, and I give credit to Rusty York, the chief of police, who was part of the 20 officers there who evicted them. So Occupy Fort Wayne right now is officially shut down, and we will be keeping you informed as to what happens with the group later. The one person, they knocked on his tent. He thought he was dreaming. He did. He thought, this has got to be a dream. There's no way somebody's knocking on my tent. And they said, you need to leave now. So we'll be following this story. But Occupy Fort Wayne has been treated very, very fairly by the city of Fort Wayne, Parks Department, and Police Department. But the time has come. They've been doing this since October, and we're now into March, so that happened. Now, for the sports fans out there, and I'm one of them, the NCAA brackets have come out. This is a big deal in March. It's called March Madness. It deals with high school and college and more, because basketball is the premier sport in March. And then we look forward to baseball. The brackets have come out, and tonight, the men's came out yesterday. The women's brackets will come out tonight. And so we're going to see a lot of basketball. If you're turning on the TV to sports stations, you're going to see a lot of we're all going to see a lot of basketball this week. And we're not going to pick any favorites because right now, Tim, I picked that the Packers would win the Super Bowl, and I was wrong about that. So I think we're going to hold off on picks until later.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't even looked at the bracket yet, but I usually do.
Yeah, well, this is a big deal. In fact, they say, Tim, that on today, the copy machines, Xerox machines, and so on, a lot of people are making copies of the brackets so they can make their picks. Well, good luck to everybody, and good luck to all the 68 teams in the men's bracket, and good luck to all the 64 teams in the women's. And we will be talking more about this as we go on. But it's a good thing to do when you're moving from winter to spring.
It's a good way to get rid of productivity at work.
Well, that happens too, because I'm sure those breaks go a little longer than 15 minutes. Okay. Back again to Wednesday. Okay, on Wednesday on News and Views at 11:30 Eastern Standard Time, we will be having two phone-in interviews. One with Erica Andiola from the DRM group, the Dream Group, and also one from Lucas De Silva, one of the 5 walkers, campaigning for the American Dream, Walk Across America for the Dream Act. So please stay tuned for that. It'll be interesting. And there's been a new bill introduced in United States Congress by a representative from Florida who is introducing a bill that's very similar to the Dream Act. It's called the STARS Act. So they always come up with a fancy term, don't they, Tim?
Yeah.
It's kind of hard, like HIPAA. You know, like HIPAA. Wasn't really that fancy. The Health Insurance Portability and Protection Act for healthcare. It guarantees our rights to privacy on medical records and so on. It's hard to come up with a good fancy term. But now we're going to have two out there, which is good. I think it's great that there's another bill out there for similar to the Dream Act, and it's called the STARS Act. And Erica Andiola is going to explain that to us. It's going to explain the difference between the two. It's not quite as comprehensive as the Dream Act, but it is another one. And Tim, you're probably wondering, how did they come up with STARS? It's called Studying Towards Adjusted Residency Status. That's STARS. I mean, you're
Yeah.
I'm glad that Representative Rivera from Florida introduced it, but it's not as comprehensive as the Dream Act. And it really did begin with the valedictorian from South Miami, Florida, who is at risk of being deported, to really protect her and others like her, but not as comprehensive as the Dream Act. So Erica Andiola is going to explain the differences between them and what else is going on in terms of immigration reform on Wednesday, along with our interview with Lucas De Silva on the Campaign for American Dream Act, Walk Across America, and their pursuit for advocacy and awareness for the American dream. Okay, I think we're about done with the weekend. I think we are, too. So now we're going to talk about the presidential election. Well, actually, that is the weekend. All right, the latest poll came out today showing that if people were voting today in the Republican Party, this is the CBS Washington Post poll, that Rick Santorum from Pennsylvania has a 4-point advantage, percentage point advantage over Mitt Romney if the election were today. And let's continue on. The poll also showed that if the election were today, the winner would be President Barack Obama by a majority. The poll about Santorum was 34% Santorum and Romney 30%. Now, of course, there's two other people. I want you to weigh in on this, talk about it. And also, there's another poll that we're going to get into a little bit later about women voters and how women voters may be switching over parties and so on. But what do you think about this, Tim? If the election were held today, and it was simply a Republican election,
Yeah.
What do you think about this? That poll, Santorum is ahead. 34% to me is not quite high enough.
Uh-huh. I mean, it depends on is the election between among all four of them.
It was.
I mean,
it was.
Election were held today.
Right. There are 4 Republican candidates. We call it the Fabulous Five, the Fab Five. We have 4 Republican candidates and we have 1 Democratic candidate, Barack Obama. So it was an election among the 4, but still, why can't one of them get a majority of their own party?
Yeah, you would think so, because eventually, I mean, I think if Newt Gingrich would drop out or something like that, I think most of his supporters would probably go to Santorum rather than to Romney, because Santorum, Gingrich, Kane, Perry in the past, they're all anti-Romney candidates pretty much that were a lot of the social conservatives rallied around them, and it just seemed like if they were splitting their support. It's kind of like what happened in Indiana in that Senate race in 2010, where they had like 3 Tea Party supported or popular candidates, and this kind of split it. But then Dan Coates ended up with the thing, with the nomination for the Republican candidacy for Senate.
Tim, what's happening this week in the primaries? Where are we at on this?
This week?
Yeah, this week. Where are we at on this?
Well, this week.
Is there any this week? We're a week off, aren't we?
I think there may be some. I haven't looked in a while, but
because I think, all right, they had, of course, we had the Super Tuesday.
There were a few over the weekend, or a couple.
Well, Guam, all right, Mitt Romney, right, one Guam. I don't understand that. Does Guam in the Philippines and the Trust Territories, how does this work? Do those delegates count?
Well,
they're not official
the Philippines
states.
Wouldn't be. The Philippines is an independent country, but
okay.
Guam and like that counts in the nomination as far as like in the primaries, like Guam, Puerto Rico, and like Virgin Islands, things like that. I mean, but other ones wouldn't.
Well, Tim, while we're on the subject, I'm just going to stay with it because there was a Washington Post story last week talking about the women voters and how Barack Obama, when he won, not controlled, but earned by voting, by people voting, 46% to 42% of women voters, in other words, voted for him versus John McCain and Sarah Palin. According to a recent poll, the gap widened to 15 points in a survey released by the Washington Post last Friday, by 15 points, showing today he is gaining women voters. How do you explain that?
Obama's
big time women voters. A lot of people here.
Oh, it kind of makes sense. I mean, because a lot of, women's issues have come up frequently over the past year or so, especially in regards to the healthcare issues. And I don't know. Whatever's offered on the Republican side are more conservative than John McCain was.
Tim, you're reading my mind. In the same story, listen to this. A lot of it has to do with health care. A lot of it has to do with birth control. I'm not talking abortion now. We're talking birth control, and a lot of Republican candidates' attempts and proposals to make it more difficult for women to gain birth control, contraceptives, and so on. And then there's other proposals out there about things to do before you can qualify to have an abortion and so on, but it all is about women's health, and there's been over 1,000 bills introduced by men and Republicans in the last year throughout the country, including in Congress, dealing with women's health. It's called women's health issues. To the point where, Tim, in the same story, listen to this, the wife of presidential contender Rick Santorum told him to quit talking about his opposition to birth control because he's losing women voters by doing it. No, it's in the very, very same story. My advice to him, meaning her husband, this is Karen Santorum, the wife, who could be the first lady in the future if he's elected president, right? He said, tell them, stop answering the question. Well, Tim, it is serious. I mean, we can, a comment like that we can be humorous about, but it really is serious because there's been a lot of proposals throughout the country at the state legislatures and in Congress. Now we had the Senator Blunt amendment last week and about health care insurance policies. And we've had the President Obama, proposal on requiring health care insurance policies by religious organizations, and they compromised on that, but then we have it in the Senate. Women are getting a little tired of all these proposals by men and by predominantly Republicans on women's health issues. That's my opinion. What do you think?
Yeah, it seems like that they're losing support because of the women's health issues.
They're really Jay Leno last week had an interesting comment. He said the Republican strategy to win. And by the way, we are not endorsing anyone here on News and Views, but we are telling it what we hear and say, and we give opinions and so on. This is America. We can do that, and we do it respectfully. Respectfully. We give everyone their point of view. But anyway, it was Jay Leno, and he said the Republican strategy was to first go talk about President Obama's failure to deal with the economy and increase jobs. But when the economy got better and jobs increased, they changed their strategy to start going after women's health issues and pushing away women. And I would add to that, he made a joke about it, but I'm being serious about this. I would add to that pushing away immigrants too. I mean, really, because the Latino voters are moving further away because the Republican candidates pushed them further away, and now they've been pushing away women. Voters, I mean. Women voters, I mean. It'll be interesting. Something, Tim, we're going to talk about. We're not going to have enough time to do it today, but we are going to talk about it, is the women voters are actually stepping up to the plate. I mean, the women legislators are stepping up to the plate and introducing some very interesting proposals at the state level and legislatures that have not received hardly any attention so far, but will. We mentioned it 2 weeks ago about Representative Yasmin Neal in Georgia, who introduced the proposal that there could be no more vasectomies funded in Georgia by health insurance programs in Georgia, as an example. And that was just the first. Now we've got more. One in Illinois, a Democratic legislator introduced a proposal saying that Viagra should no longer be funded by health insurance programs. And some women legislators are starting to fight back on this because they're tired of all of the legislation, over 1,000 bills and proposals in the last year alone throughout the country regarding women's health issues. The last one that passed was in Virginia, where they passed a law saying that women could not have an abortion unless they have the ultrasound first. So I mean, we don't have enough time for this today. We don't.